more than 300 in the UK today, and that number is climbing fast. But here's what's truly shocking. In some cities, homelessness has jumped by over 50% in just a few years. How is that possible in one of the world's wealthiest nations? This isn't just about people sleeping rough. It's about single parents couch surfing with toddlers, young adults locked out of the rental market, and working families forced into temporary shelters because they simply can't afford rent anymore. And here's the twist. You probably think you can guess which cities are worst off, but some of the names on this list will completely surprise you. So what's going on? Are skyrocketing rents to blame? Is it cuts to social programs, mental health issues, immigration, or all of the above? And why are some cities being hit harder than others? In this video, we're breaking down the top 5 where homelessness is rising the fastest, and the real reasons behind these shocking trends. Everything you'll hear is backed by fresh data from shelter, crisis, and official government reports. If you want to understand what's really happening behind the headlines and what can be done to stop it, stick around. This is more than a list, it's a warning, and it affects us all. Number 5, Glasgow. Coming in at number 5 is Glasgow, a city with a proud industrial past, rich culture, and now an unsettling rise in homelessness that can't be ignored. According to recent data from Shelter Scotland, Glasgow has seen a 20% increase in homelessness applications in just 2 years. Even more alarming, the number of people placed in temporary accommodation has surged to record highs. Entire families are now living in cramped B&Bs and hostels for months, without any guarantee of stable housing. But how did we get here? In Glasgow, the issue isn't just poverty, it's the collapse of support systems. While Scotland's housing policies have generally been more progressive than the rest of the UK, the sheer demand has overwhelmed the safety nets. Devolved responsibilities for housing and healthcare have allowed for innovation, but they've also created gaps where people fall through the cracks, especially when local budgets shrink or staffing can't keep up with demand. Mental health and addiction services, once robust, are now under intense pressure. Wait times for treatment are growing, and many struggling individuals simply don't get help in time. As a result, rough sleeping is becoming more visible, especially in the city centre and around major transport hubs like Glasgow Central Station. Glasgow's housing market isn't doing anyone favours either. With rising rents, shortage of wages, the affordability crisis is squeezing people from all sides. Young people are especially vulnerable, unable to move out, forced into overcrowded homes, or left with no place to go when family support breaks down. Local charities like Simon Community Scotland are doing their best, providing outreach teams, night shelters, and one-to-one support. But demand has skyrocketed. Their frontline workers report encountering more young people, more women, and more first-time homeless individuals than ever before. One worker put it bluntly, "We're not seeing the same people on the streets. We're seeing new faces, people who never thought this could happen to them." And that's perhaps the scariest part. Homelessness in Glasgow isn't just affecting those on the fringes. It's hitting the working poor, students, single parents, and even older adults whose pensions can't keep up with rising living costs. Glasgow's situation even more tragic is that the city has a blueprint for how things should work. It was once praised for its housing-first model and strong community partnerships. But funding cuts, staff shortages, and economic downturns have slowly chipped away at those gains. The Scottish Government has committed to ending homelessness by 2026, but the reality on the ground feels very different. The urgency is there, but so are the challenges. Lack of affordable housing, limited mental health care, and a growing number of people slipping through the system. Glasgow's story is a powerful reminder. Even the most well-intentioned policies can collapse under pressure if they aren't backed by action, funding, and sustained long-term commitment. Number 4. Bristol. At number 4, we have Bristol, a city celebrated for its innovation, tech startups, and street art. But Bristol is battling a homelessness crisis that's growing faster than almost anywhere else in southern England. Recent figures from Bristol City Council show a 40% increase in people needing emergency accommodation over the past 3 years. And that's just the official count. Local charities warn the real numbers are even higher, with many experiencing hidden homelessness, sleeping in cars, squatting, or crashing with strangers. So what's fueling this surge? One major factor is Bristol's booming rental market. Property values have skyrocketed, driven by gentrification and a tech-driven housing demand. While this growth looks good on paper, it's pushing low-income families and vulnerable individuals out of the market entirely. In some neighborhoods, rents have risen by over 25% in the last 5 years, pricing out even full-time workers. Then there's the shortage of social housing. The waiting list for council that some people wait up to 10 years just to get a placement. And in the meantime, they're stuck in costly temporary accommodations or forced to move far from their communities. Bristol's challenges also intersect with mental health and addiction issues. Support services are underfunded and overstretched. Outreach teams from St Mungo's and other local organisations report growing numbers of people with untreated trauma, depression, or substance dependency who have nowhere to turn. One of the most visible signs of the crisis? Tents along the riverbanks, in underpasses, and even in quiet residential areas. What used to be rare sights are now almost normal, and that's deeply troubling. But Bristol isn't giving up. The city is known for its activist heart, and that spirit is still alive. Community organisations like Caring in Bristol and Help Bristol's Homeless are stepping up, converting shipping containers into safe mini-homes and offering real pathways out of homelessness. They're doing amazing work, but they can't keep up without stronger systemic support. What makes Bristol's situation especially heartbreaking is the contrast. Here is a vibrant, youthful city full of promise, and yet hundreds are living in conditions that most of us would consider unthinkable. It highlights the harsh inequality hiding behind urban success stories. And it raises a question for all of us. How can a city thrive if so many of its people are left behind? If you're from Bristol or know someone who lives there, what have you seen? Are local efforts making a difference? Or is the problem getting worse? Drop a comment below and tell us your thoughts. We genuinely want to hear from you. In the power of real stories, backed by facts and driven by compassion, make sure to subscribe for more videos that dig beneath the headlines. Next up, we're heading to the Midlands, where the situation is even more intense. Stay tuned. Number 3. Birmingham. Birmingham doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't need to. The numbers do that for it. In the past few years, the West Midlands' largest city has quietly climbed the ranks in a crisis no city wants to win. Homelessness rates. Right now, over 15,000 people in Birmingham are either homeless or living in temporary accommodation. Not drifting, not couch surfing, officially homeless. It's a massive city, yes, but those figures are staggering. What's making Birmingham such a hotspot? Start with housing availability. The city has seen a surge in demand post-pandemic, but new builds aren't keeping up. The affordable ones, even rarer. For every social housing property made available, dozens, sometimes hundreds, families, young adults, single parents. And here's where Birmingham stands out in a disturbing way. Family homelessness is rising fast. A growing number of people turning up at council offices aren't individuals with long-term struggles. They're entire families with jobs, suddenly unable to keep up with rising rents or after being evicted with short notice. When people think of homelessness, they often picture someone sleeping rough on a bench. That happens here too, but it's only part of the story. In Birmingham, homelessness often wears a school uniform and carries a lunchbox. Children living in B&Bs with no kitchen. Teenagers doing homework on motel beds. It's real, and it's growing. Local charities, including St. Basil's and SIFA Fireside, have adapted. St. Basil's focuses specifically on young people aged 16 to 25. They provide accommodation and training, a lifeline for those trying to break the cycle early. But they're overwhelmed. Demand is growing faster than they can respond. And behind every one of those stats, a story, like the 24-year-old woman who was working full-time in retail, got hit with a rent hike she couldn't afford and ended up sleeping in her car. Or a man in his 50s who'd never been out of work until COVID, now living in a hostel, job hunting during the day, sharing a room with strangers at night. These aren't outliers. They're becoming the norm. One reason Birmingham is struggling so badly is systemic delays. People apply for housing help, but the waiting process is slow. Emergency placements aren't always suitable, especially for families with young kids. And many report being moved multiple times, never knowing where they'll be the next week. It's the instability that wears people down. Not knowing if your child will be in the same school, not being able to store food, not having an address to apply for jobs. Birmingham is a city with incredible heart. But right now, that heart is under pressure. And it's becoming clear this isn't just a housing issue. It's a human one. Number 2. Manchester. Manchester has always been a city of contrast. Music and money, industry and innovation, success and struggle. But lately, one contrast stands out above the rest. A city on the rise, while more people than ever are falling through the cracks. In just the last year, homelessness in Manchester has jumped by 34%, according to data from Greater Manchester Combined Authority. The number of people living in temporary accommodation has hit record highs, and rough sleeping is far from solved. There's a reason this is happening here. Manchester has experienced rapid regeneration. Skyscrapers, new train stations, trendy neighborhoods popping up almost overnight. But progress has a price, and in this case, it's displacement. Rent in the city centre has soared, and it's spreading outwards, pushing lower-income residents into tighter, more expensive corners. Those on the edge, people juggling low-wage jobs, zero-hour contracts, or precarious housing, have no buffer. A missed paycheck, a sudden eviction, or even just the end of a short-term lease can tip someone into homelessness. And once you're there, climbing back out is brutally difficult. Austerity measures over the past decade hit Manchester especially hard. Cuts to mental health services, addiction support, and youth programs were deep and long. Charities have stepped in where the system has failed, but even their efforts are stretched razor thin. One charity worker in Ancoats described the situation like this: "We're not dealing with a wave anymore. It's a tide. It just keeps coming." Youth homelessness in particular is skyrocketing. Greater Manchester has one of the highest rates of young people at risk of homelessness in the country. Many are care leavers. Others have been forced out due to family breakdowns, domestic abuse, or mental health struggles. Once on the streets, they're vulnerable to exploitation, addiction, and violence. Manchester's Mayor, Andy Burnham, has championed the A Bed Every Night initiative, a program that provides emergency accommodation every single night, not just in the winter. It's helped thousands, and it's one of the boldest schemes of its kind in the UK. But even that can't absorb the sheer scale of demand right now. The city isn't without hope. New social housing projects are in the pipeline. Community organisations like Tree and Booth Centre continue to support people with meals, showers, and essential life skills. But demand is rising faster than the solutions, and Manchester's challenges are interconnected. You can't fix homelessness without tackling mental health, addiction, job insecurity, and housing affordability all at once. It's complex, it's human, and it's urgent. So why Manchester? Because it represents a bigger story. What happens when regeneration forgets about the people who were already there? It's a warning to every growing city in the UK. Build forward, but don't leave anyone behind. Number 1. London. London, the city of opportunity, ambition, and record-breaking rent. It's also ground zero for the UK's homeless. More than 10,000 people sleep rough in London each year, and that's just the most visible side. The real numbers, far bigger. Over 170,000 people, entire families, elderly individuals, and working adults, are currently in temporary accommodation, often in unsafe or overcrowded conditions, according to the latest figures from Shelter. That's 1 in every 50 Londoners without a stable home. So how did it come to this? London has always been expensive, but the last few years have turned a crisis into a catastrophe. The average rent for a one-bedroom flat now exceeds £2,000 per month in many boroughs. Combine that with rising utility costs, food inflation and stagnant wages, and even full-time workers are being priced out of their homes. But housing costs are only part of the story. Local councils, especially in boroughs like Newham, Hackney and Westminster, are buckling under the pressure. Many have been forced to place families in original neighbourhoods, splitting children from schools and parents from their workplaces. For some, temporary means years of moving from one short-term solution to the next, never knowing when they'll have to start over. London's diversity is one of its greatest strengths, but it also means many of those affected by homelessness are immigrants, asylum seekers or refugees. They face additional barriers: legal uncertainty, limited access to benefits, and cultural isolation. Some are entirely dependent on grassroots organisations to survive. Rough sleeping in London has also taken a darker turn. Reports show an increase in violence against homeless people, especially in central areas where visibility is high. During the winter, deaths from exposure and untreated illness are common. These aren't just numbers, they're names that could have gone another way. And despite the visibility of the issue, London's infrastructure isn't coping. Outreach teams are doing heroic work. Organisations like Thames Reach and Streets of London provide night buses, food drops and emergency beds. But even they admit it's not enough. What makes London's crisis so confronting is the proximity of extreme wealth. Walk a few blocks from a luxury apartment in Kensington and you'll find someone sleeping under an archway. Tech millionaires in Shoreditch, and just down the road, tent cities under bridges. It's a city of sharp contrasts, and nowhere are they more obvious than here. Government promises to build more affordable housing have been slow to materialise. Temporary fixes and headline-grabbing pledges haven't stopped the flood. The deeper problems, poverty, inequality, and a broken housing market, remain untouched. This list, not because it's the only city struggling, but because it's where the gap between success and suffering is widest. And until that gap closes, the crisis won't end. Before you scroll away, what's happening in your city? Drop a comment and share your thoughts. We read every single one. If you found this eye-opening, check out our last video. It dives even deeper into the hidden side of the UK's housing crisis. We pour hours into research to bring you real stories that matter. So if you want to support what we do, just hit subscribe. It's one click, but it means the world to us.